Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, and Darnell Washington. This Pittsburgh Steelers 3 tight end set package is about to be insane. So, Steelers offense coordinator Arthur Smith loves running multiple tight ends on the field at the same time, and runs the most 2 and 3 tight end sets compared to any other offense coordinator in the league. And now he's at players to match the package. He has the do-it-all tight end in Pat Freiermuth, who can catch the ball and block. And then he has Jonnu Smith, who the Steelers just traded for, who's a receiving red zone threat, putting up 8 touchdowns and almost getting over 1,000 yards. And then he has a huge blocker, the 6'8" extra offensive line type player in Darnell Washington, who's also a mismatch down the field waiting to happen. So the Pittsburgh Steelers have absolute beasts at the tight end position, and now this package that the Steelers are going to put on the other team's defenses is about to be insane. But first, before I get more into it, however, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also, like this video. Now, let's get right back into it. So, what do the Pittsburgh Steelers want to do? Well, they want to run the ball and then play great defense. But also, the next thing they want to do is start using the middle of the field way more. That's what Arthur Smith does. That's his offense. If you watch what the Tennessee Titans did when he was offense coordinator there, what the Atlanta Falcons did when he was the head coach there, they use the middle of the field and run the ball. And now they have the personnel to do that. They have the players on the field to be able to do that. Last season, the Steelers barely targeted the middle of the field. Well, now they're making an extra emphasis on the middle of the field. Getting Aaron Rodgers, who targets the middle of the field a lot, but also getting the tight ends and the players to do that as well. And let's start off with Pat Freiermuth, because he's going to be the number 1 tight end on this team, and he's a player who could do it all, just like I said at the beginning of the video. He could run block, but also he could use the middle of the field and the outside of the field. And he's a tight end red zone threat as well. He's a do-it-all guy, and the Pittsburgh Steelers gave him that contract and drafted him highly in the draft years back for a reason. So, Big Ben, when he was here, that was one of his favorite targets. Down the field for a reason, in the middle of the field for a reason. And now with Aaron Rodgers here, that trust will be built, and he'll have someone actually throw him the ball and actually give him targets. And when he's targeted, he could be a mismatch waiting to happen in the middle of the field at any given time, because he's 6'5" and is a huge tight end mismatch going against different linebackers and different people covering him. He has proven that in the past, but he just hasn't been given the same opportunity as maybe he will this season, in which he will show out. But also, moving over to the next tight end, because not only do we have a receiving threat in Pat Freiermuth and a blocking threat in Pat Freiermuth, we also have a receiving threat in Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith just made the Pro Bowl with the Miami Dolphins, and now he got traded over here and just thrown in the package along with Jalen Ramsey. He's going to be one of the steals of that trade, because he is a receiving threat and is a mismatch waiting to happen down the field. He put up 8 touchdowns, so he stands at 6'3", and he's still a red zone threat. Not only that, but he's a player who can know how to play in 2 tight end packages. He's done it a lot throughout his career. He did it when he was with the New England Patriots in terms of playing next to Hunter Henry, and then he also did it many times with the Atlanta Falcons and then also with the Tennessee Titans. So he knows how to play a role on the team, but not only that, he's a mismatch. He's going to put up almost 1,000 yards when he is given the opportunity to be the number 1 tight end. Because he just did that with the Miami Dolphins, and he showed out. Age, 31, and he just put up his best season. He's not going to get worse in one season. He's only going to continue progressing and continue getting better and keep showing out. And now he's with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he's just a player who just got thrown in the package in the trade. So you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and those are 2 receiving threats at tight ends, where if you put on the field, you're not just going to be worried about them blocking. You're going to be worried about what they're going to be able to do in terms of the mismatch. You can't just put any linebacker on them and expect them to cover him. No, you might have to put a defensive back in order to cover these guys, because they're true receiving threats. But that's not even it, because if the Pittsburgh Steelers decide to roll out another tight end on the field, a 3 tight end set, that tight end is going to be an absolute monster. 6'8" Darnell Washington, who weighs 300 pounds, someone who's going to be a big body tight end, an extra offense line, someone who no one's going to be able to get past in terms of speed rushing, rushing the passer, or even trying to get to the running back. He's a player who could set the edge and play really good in terms of his blocking scheme. But then also, if you just look what he did in college in terms of what he's able to do as a receiving threat, if he is given more opportunity, he will be a beast. He will be a mismatch waiting to happen. And he's 6'8", so you could just throw the ball up to him and he's going to be able to be a mismatch on any player on the field. Not just linebackers or not just cornerbacks, anybody. There's no one who's going to be the same size as him on the defense side of the ball. So you could throw it to him and expect good things. And also, he's a player who's known as maybe not being that nimble, not being that elusive. But in college, he had the most yards after catch for any tight end in his draft class. So he's a player who could really get down the field as well. He just hasn't been given the opportunity yet. And now Aaron Rodgers may take full advantage of that and may give him that opportunity. You look what Aaron Rodgers just said about Darnell Washington this offseason. He said that he reminds him of his friend, of his great teammate, Mercedes Lewis, someone who followed Aaron Rodgers around wherever he went because Aaron Rodgers loved his game. And him comparing Darnell Washington to Mercedes Lewis only bodes well for Darnell Washington and maybe his opportunity, because that means Aaron Rodgers sees something in Darnell Washington and maybe will target him more. Because if you view him as someone who you brought along everywhere you went because you love him as a player and as a person, then maybe Darnell Washington, that next step this season, will be shown. But that's a 3 tight end set, monster set, that the Pittsburgh Steelers can deploy and will deploy this upcoming season. So the Pittsburgh Steelers want to get back to using the middle of the field. Well, these 3 tight ends are perfect players to do so. And also, when we're talking about running the football, if you put these 3 tight ends on the field, most likely when you run the 3 tight end set, you expect teams to run the ball. You expect it to be extra blockers in the game for you to run the football. Well, now the Pittsburgh Steelers could do that. They could put these 3 tight ends on the field and still run the football. And teams are going to be expecting you to run the football. But also being able to run pass plays out of that 3 tight end set is what's going to make the difference here. Because, like I said, people are going to be expecting the run with 3 tight ends on the field. But when you have 2 mismatches, 3 mismatches at the tight end position who could also run routes, who can also get up the field and make plays and duke out their defender, being big play threats down the field, that could only help this offense. Because then teams are not going to know what to play. They're going to stack the box and then they're going to get beat down the field. Or they're going to play zone and then they're going to get beat in the run. So the Pittsburgh Steelers just making a difference in terms of the line of scrimmage. It's what's going to bold difference for this team and what's going to help this team this season. And they built this up for a reason. They didn't just add these tight ends on the field for them not to use them. They didn't just trade for Jonnu Smith for them not to run at least a 2 tight end sets. And they didn't draft Darnell Washington in the 3rd round for a reason, to just not use him. So they're going to use these guys. It's just a matter of fact of when, and will it be used right away. Arthur Smith, like I said, he runs the most sets in terms of 2 tight ends and 3 tight ends in the league, especially 3 tight ends. So this upcoming season, you could expect that. Last season, the Pittsburgh Steelers deployed likes of McCollum Pruitt, Connor Hayward, and players alongside Pat Freiermuth just to fill the 3 tight end sets. But now actually having good players who are 1,000-yard receivers basically, and then an extra offensive line and mismatches like a 6'8" guy, that's going to be a big difference than just deploying like a guy like Connor Hayward, who's like 6 feet tall, or like your McCollum Pruitt, who's in the later portion of his career, who's not really that good anymore in terms of a really good player. He's a solid player, but he's not really good like these other guys, or probable talent like these other guys. So actually being able to deploy the talent that you need for these 3 tight end sets and these packages that you want to run is a big difference. And there's talks about Jonnu Smith being used as actually a 2nd wide receiver on this team and being the number 2 receiver on this team. There's many people who think that's going to happen. I personally don't. I still think it's Calvin Austin. But you just having that thought in your brain that Jonnu Smith can be played as an extra wide receiver, it bodes well for this team, because that means he's a threat, and the Pittsburgh Steelers know it. So this Steelers team is about to be insane this season. They have a 3 cornerback package I'll talk about in a different video, but in terms of the offense side of the ball, this 3 tight end sets will help them run the football and not have defenses expecting the plays you're about to run, but also using the middle of the field and maybe being even a red zone threat and having more touchdowns on the field and more points scored this upcoming season. But anyway, that's the end of this video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on each of these players: Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, Darnell Washington. What's your thoughts on the Steelers deploying all 3 of them at the same time and them having a package to match the personnel? So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below about this video and your thoughts on the topics brought up. And also make sure you subscribe to the channel to turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, highlights, analysis, reports. I cover everything Pittsburgh Steelers football. It doesn't matter what it is. This is the best spot for you. So make sure you stay tuned, like, comment, and subscribe, turn notifications for this channel. And until next time, I'll see you guys all later. And that's it from me. I'm out. Peace.